we're live. Hey, besties and bosses, happy Tuesday. How are you all doing? How's everyone's weekend? Y'all getting spring weather? I know, let's see, Australia, I guess we have opposite weather, so maybe it's fall there, but here in New York City, it feels like officially spring. And I don't know how this was for everyone else, but we had a couple days where it was like hot. It felt like summer here. So I brought out the summer dresses this weekend. It was very topsy-turvy because just a week ago, I think it was still winter weather. Anyway, so what's going on over here? I'm enjoying the spring weather and getting to have nice walks, and that means I live near a park here. That means the birds are out. It's migration season. The flowers are in bloom. It's pretty lovely. It's not what we're talking about today, but I always like to have a little check-in and pulse and see how y'all are doing. We are going to talk about, what is our topic today? Our topic today is all about, and I'm just pulling up my notes so I can make sure that I have them here, but what no one in the online space wants to tell you about what actually goes into highly converting strategies. So we're going to have a really great conversation, and I will lead you into this, but we're going to talk specifically about what goes into a highly converting strategy. I've been in business for over 7 years now and have helped, gosh, I can't even count how many clients at this point to grow to their first six figures, multi-six figures, $1 million plus. I've made over $1 million revenue in my own business in the last 4 years alone from just one-on-one. So I have a thing or two to say about what goes into strategies that convert. We're going to talk about this whether you are a brand new business owner or you're making $2 million plus. I've literally worked with clients at every stage in there in between. We're going to talk about the timeline you can expect around results in your business, why no one wants to tell this when you buy their program. And no, this has nothing to do with people being lying or shady in the online space. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. We want to talk about how to stay out of the finger pointing and victim mindset that I think can happen sometimes and really spin people out and set them back years in business. We're going to break that down a little bit. And how to know if your strategy is working, or if it's not working, or if there's an opportunity to lean into and refine your strategy. And then last but not least, I'll just spend a minute on this, but I think it's important to hear. I'm going to share a little bit about the truth about customer journeys, what I'm noticing in our online space currently through my own business and through clients. And I think this is really important to understand if you are wanting to be in business right now, use the online space and book out with clients and stay fully booked. So this will be a juicy conversation. If you are live now, say hi. If you have questions as I'm going through this, please throw them at me and don't mind me as I adjust. Also, I just realized this shirt is very fun. It's like one of these like fun things, but it makes a lot of noise as I'm readjusting. So I'll try to not readjust my sleeves too much. I realize it's probably a lot of background noise, but it's my spring fun shirt. But as I'm going through this, if you have questions, throw those at me. If you have reflections, I always love to have a conversation around this. And I think it's also helpful as we're talking through some of these things, particularly in terms of really what works in business for other people to be able to chime in, because I think one of the things I have as a gift for myself, because I work with clients only one-on-one and because I've been in business for so long, I get the blessing of seeing what actually goes into business, what actually goes into results. And I see so across industries, across niches, across honestly timelines in our industry, across different stages of business. And I know for so many people, it's not like people don't get business. It's just sometimes if you're not getting privy to seeing that all day, every day for 7 years, and I'm also in masterminds, right? If you're not getting privy to seeing that, sometimes the only thing you have to go by is your own business and then what everyone is telling you online. And that can be super confusing. So I hope this will be a really useful conversation, but I think as well, if any of you do want to chime in and share reflections as we're talking through this, I think the more we're talking about things openly, the more we're talking about what is actually going into strategies convert, what actually goes into results, I think the more that can normalize for other people what's going on. So what I just want to open this up with, just so that you have a little context, is what was impetus for this live stream in general. I see this happen so often, but the other day I hopped on to Facebook to respond to a couple comments, and I saw a post that was anonymous, which I didn't even know you could do. Did you know you can post anonymously in groups? Go figure. But someone posted something anonymously, so I had no idea who this was. I have no idea if this was valid or not valid. I just saw an anonymous post. And it caught my attention because it was someone who was complaining about a group program they had signed up for and paid for. And they shared that they had showed up for 2 months. And I wrote this down because I usually don't, but I think this is just helpful for context for our conversation. They've been showing up for 2 months, 3 times a week. Applause, high five or applauses to them. And they were really mad and pissed off because they expected to have clients and make back some or all of their investment by this time. And they were basically saying the program they signed up for, they felt like they got duped. I don't think that was the exact language they could use. So they posted this anonymously, and there were over 100 so when I saw the post, what grabbed my attention, I was like, there's 100 comments on this post. And it's always interesting to me when we see so many comments on a post like this, because first and foremost, we don't know who the person is, we don't know who the program is, we don't know literally anything. So I always find it really fascinating when people then, and this is not any judgment or to throw shade, I just find it very interesting and fascinating, all the advice that wants to be given around something like this when we really have no context. This is why I offer one-on-one, and why I don't, this is why I won't coach in comments or in DMs, for example. It's not because I don't want to offer, I mean, I give as much free value as I can, but there's just so little context for us to be able to dive into anything. Anyway, I digress here, but there's over 100 comments, and many of the comments were me too. They were hating on crappy programs. There were a lot of people saying, this is why I'm scared to even start my business or invest in a program. So that was one column. And then there were at least 50 comments that were giving unsolicited advice, that were giving suggestions, that were problem solving, that were offering free calls, that were offering opt-ins. And look, applause to anyone who's selling. I'm again, this is not a judgment. This is just an example of something that happens in our online space. And again, I have no idea. I have no context. The post was anonymous, and I don't know the program. So we don't know what's true or not, but we can see what is then happening as an example of what's going on in our space. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because I think there's a couple things here. First, you hear me talk about this all the time. I love our industry, and I think there is a lot of noise, rightfully so, in our space right now. And I think we are in a time, we're in a reset that I think is long overdue in terms of people needing to be able to have some social proof and have offers that are validated and to be who they say they are. And if you're putting a price tag next to something, that being honest and sincere and in integrity. I think we are in a time where there's just been a lot of smoke and mirrors and people lying. And we've talked about this before. This is not what today's conversation is about, but just to speak to that, I would say that's 1% to 3%, maybe 5% of our industry. But I do think there's just been price gouging. There's been all sorts of things going on, and we're just in a reset that's long overdue. So that is all absolutely true. And unfortunately, I think what can happen when that's also going on is the pendulum can swing, and we can have situations like this where if you're frustrated, where expectations can get really big, and where because of marketing and because of human expectations can get blown out. And then if you sign up for something and you don't get the results you want, right, it's very easy to post something anonymously and to crowdsource commiseration and validation and advice. And again, I'm not making any of this wrong, but what happens, and this is why I want to break down some of the reality about what goes into results, is to level set some expectations, and also to give some thoughts on how you can discern if something's working or not working, and how to make investments that serve you. Because what happens when you post something like this, look, if I was pissed off about something, if I invested in a gym program, a workout program, and I didn't get the results I wanted, and I posted anonymously, and I got 50 people basically telling me that I was right, and like, fuck gyms and fuck workout, like that would just make me feel, even if it was temporary, like a temporary thing, it would just make me feel very validated and vindicated, and it would soothe me, right? And then, so like, I think there's that side of it, and just calling that for what it is, but then that just makes us feel like, oh, right, that program sucked and nothing is working. Like, I'm right in that nothing is working. And then I think with this, the other thing that can happen is then if we're crowdsourcing opinions, like this thing didn't work, this program I paid for is wrong. And again, I don't know, this program might have been fluff, it might have been crap. That's kind of not the point of the conversation. It just opened up this thought, because I've walked so many clients through this who have been in programs where they feel like they didn't get results, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But I think the other thing that can happen is then if you have 50 people offering you freebies and free calls and advice and how to problem solve, what might actually be a strategy that was working and some things that were going well, we can imagine how easy it would be for this person. Like, I don't know this person, I have no idea what's going to happen, but I can imagine if this person isn't mindful, and I'm guessing that they're not in a stage where they're able to be, if this is what they're posting, and just seeing some of the things they were taking people up on, they're going to be set back 2 or 3 years, because those are 50 different options to try and jump around from. And so that's why I want to dive into this today, because I think, again, this is not to say that there isn't an opportunity for our industry to have a reset. There is. I think I've been on a bit of a soapbox about that, and that's a different conversation than we're having today. But I think there's also an opportunity for us to talk about what really goes into results, and honestly why no one wants to talk about this. And that's what I'm going to share as well, because I think a lot of people don't want to have the conversation I'm about to, and not for the reasons you think. I think I'm just in a place where I work only with one-on-ones. I'm not selling group programs and courses. I have some DIY programs. I have spots that open up from time to time, and I think it's just a lot easier for me to be in a position to have these conversations, because I mean, of course I'm marketing, of course I care about that, but I'm also only opening up and looking for clients who are really committed and in a long-term position for business. So it's just easier for me to have these conversations. So I don't think it's that other people are lying or omitting the truth, but I think some of the conversation we're going to have today, I think it's just a lot of people don't want to talk about that, and I'm going to talk about why. But one of the main reasons is it's not very useful for people's marketing. So let me rewind the table a little bit here. Let's talk about what actually goes into a highly converting strategy. And again, this is whether you are brand new in business and you just started out, or you are making 2 million plus and you have a massive team. I think what we want to level set is, and this is just the annoying truth, but this is the truth in business. This is the truth if you start a workout program or a fitness journey or a health journey. This is the truth if I start my hip hop classes, or I've taken hip hop classes. This is the truth if you're an actor. This is the truth if you want to go be a doctor and go to medical school. The truth is results take time, and the timeline is different for everyone based on what you're walking in with. So what I mean by that is, if we'll use acting as an example. My husband is an actor. He returned to acting. He got very quick results. Quick results are possible, right? He came back to acting. He booked an acting role within a couple months, and it'd be very easy, right, for us to market to that and to say, I coached him, right? I helped him with that, and these are the quick results, and that is absolutely true. And what he walked into this journey with was a decade of acting experience, a decade of acting credits, a ton of professionalism, a ton of mindset tools, a ton of tools. And he was already at a level where he was ready and able to hit the ground running. And even within that, his first result took time. So if we think about business, and if we think about this person who, again, I don't know this person, this is not me calling anyone out, this is just to use this as an example, who was talking about being in a program, showing up for, I think they said 2 months, 3 times a week. I think first and foremost, we just have to look at results take time no matter what. And most people will say a strategy takes about 90 days to play out. And I think that can be very confusing, because yes, most strategies take a minimum of 90 days to play out. And that means for us to really start getting data and to see what's working and what's not working, and to start getting results. What I see in my business today is usually the result of what I was doing 90 days ago. That is true. And that doesn't mean that strategies work in 90 days, and if they don't work in 90 days, you're doing something wrong, or your strategy doesn't working. That means they take a minimum of 90 days generally to play out, and that is also based on what you're walking into that strategy with. So if you are a brand new business owner and you've never marketed before, you've never messaged before, you've never put together an offer before, that is a really exciting place to be in business. And the expectation that you're going to create a brand new offer, and you're going to have tested that, and you're going to have social proof, and you're going to know how to message, and you're going to know how to market, and you're going to know how to write content, and you're going to know how to sell, and you're going to know how to overcome objections, and how to, all of these things, right, that are a part of having a strategy convert for you, that you're going to, after 2 months of showing up 3 days a week, which is great, but let's say there's 4 weeks in a month and you're showing up 3 times over 1 month, right? I can do math, that's 12 times. So that means 24 times you've shown up. If we just do the math here, there's a good chance that's barely, it's not even enough time necessarily for a strategy to work. Not that people can't get quick results. Again, my husband got quick results. I have clients who've gotten fully booked in 3 months, but clients who get fully booked in 3 months and replace their corporate salary are often coming to the game with a different level of maybe experience in the business they're starting, or social proof or a validated offer or a level of confidence around creating content or marketing or sales, right? There's usually a different place they're starting that 3-month journey at. But if, let's say, I'm just assuming based on what this person was sharing, some of the advice they were getting, if you're starting, you're brand new, that's a really unfair expectation. Honestly, it's not even about the program. If the program was good or not, that's just a really tough thing to do to yourself and to put on yourself if you're newer to the game. Because yes, results take time, but it also takes time to learn and to refine a skill set and to get in mastery with that. And I think this is just a place where so many business owners unintentionally sabotage what is already working and going really, really well for them because of unfair expectations on themselves or a program. And I think this is a place we just want to start to level set a little bit. Sarah says, totally agree. Instant results are rare. It does take time and depends on the tools you're bringing in. Exactly. And this isn't to say, like, this is the thing I always say to clients. We are so available for instant results. I am available to be the unicorn in my business and industry. I'm available for every single one of my clients to be the unicorn that has like crazy quick results. Like, we want to be available for that. I never want to be a coach or for myself to say that that is not a possibility, right? If we use the acting example, the truth is, when I first moved to LA, I booked a job right away, right? I want to be available for that. I also didn't become a superstar over 10 years, right? Both things were true there. But I think we want to be available and hold that that is possible, while also seeing that that is usually the exception to the rule. And all of us want to be the exception to the rule. All of us, I literally have an affirmation that I am the exception to the rule, right? That is something I think is a great belief set to have. And I think we also have to level set expectations so we're not making ourselves wrong when we're not the exception to the rule. So we're not making others wrong or programs wrong or strategies wrong that are probably actually working really, really well. They just haven't had enough time to play out, or you just haven't had enough time to master something for it to work for you. There's a couple more nuances I want to talk about to this, but I think this is just an opportunity to really play with that dichotomy and that bothness of course, be available for quick results, right? I'm available to make $1 million tomorrow. I am so here for that, and I'm so available to be the exception to the rule. I'm also, if $1 million in my business doesn't show up tomorrow, I'm also then not going to say that my business doesn't work, that my strategy doesn't work, that my clients suck because I have a revenue share model, that revenue share doesn't work, that I have none of it's working, that my coach sucks and I shouldn't have invested in her coaching for the last 5 years, and that, man, she's been leading me astray, right? Like, I think it's just having room for both there. And I think that's just something that we don't allow enough grace for ourselves, but also for some of the things we invest in. I think we put a lot of pressure and expectations on programs to be everything, right? And I think unintentionally, this is a way we outsource our power. Again, I don't know this person. This is just an example. This might be the most grounded, well-adjusted person who's in their power. We're using this as an example, but my guess is when you're blaming a program after 2 months, that also means you're outsourcing your power to the program. If you're really mad at a coach because they didn't get you results in a certain amount of time, and this, I want to be so mindful here because we are in a time where we're also looking at, of course, as a coach, of course, as a program provider, we have responsibility as well. We need to be in integrity, and we need to validate offers and show up for our part of the program. That's not what we're talking about here. But when we're bad at a program or a coach for not getting us results in a certain time frame, oftentimes this can also mean we are outsourcing all of our power to someone else. And I think there's such an opportunity for us to take some of our power back, and to see this gets to be an opportunity to not outsource power to other people, and to also see, how can I not expect one person, one program to solve everything and to get me results in a certain amount of time? And I think this is also then on the flip side, where as marketers, if you're a business owner, you're a marketer, we also have an opportunity to look at where are we maybe even unintentionally promising to get results for people in a certain amount of time when we can't possibly get someone results, or where are we maybe unintentionally taking people's power away in the marketing or sales journey. I think this is, on both sides, this is something for us to look at. But I think we want to keep coming back to the truth is what actually goes into highly converting strategies and results is time and mastery. And there's a certain amount, like results just do take time. And there is, separate from results take time, there is a level of mastery required. And so I know I'm repeating myself here, but I want to put a button on this. I think we just need to remember when someone is saying, or when we're talking about results or strategy takes a minimum of 90 days, that's assuming if this is, you're coming in with everything that's already, you've got a tested offer, it is validated, you've got messaging that's on point, you've got marketing that's on point, your confidence is on point, you're not bringing in a bunch of mindset trash, your sales, you know how to sell, right? Then that's when we get to just see, let's test this over 90 days. That's about how long it's going to take to show up. Otherwise, it might just take a little bit longer. And I think, again, it's not a strategy takes 90 days or it's not working. That's sort of the minimum for us to have enough data to even see, do we need to go in and refine something? Is maybe part of your strategy working and we need to adjust the messaging? So I really want to level set on that. And the other thing I want to speak to that I think is just the truth about a highly converting strategy and I think I've probably talked about this on other lives recently, but I think it's just a conversation I've been having with clients a lot behind closed doors, because they're private calls, not because it's a secret, that I think is just important, again, for us to level set is two things here. I think one, current landscape of our online space or industry, current landscape of the economy aside, everyone's business and everyone's offer is going to have a different customer journey timeline. So there's a lot of things that come into play here. Some of this can be in terms of how much content you have and how deep your content is and how quickly you can build a know, like, and trust with someone. Some of this is also going to be determined with the level of commitment that is required for someone to invest in your product and the price point. So for example, if I'm selling a $27 program or a $10,000 or $20,000 or $50,000 coaching program, there's probably going to be a longer customer journey for, let's say, a 6-month, $30,000 coaching program. That's not the price of my coaching, but we're just using that as an example, right? There's probably going to be a longer customer journey, a longer need to build the know, like, and trust for that than there is going to be for a $27 self-study program you can do on your own. I think that tracks, right? And so I think every business, your customer journey is going to look different. And this doesn't mean that your strategy doesn't work. This doesn't mean that your strategy isn't converting. This doesn't mean the program you just took or the coach that just helped you with the strategy sucks. There might be truth in that. You might have gotten into a program that isn't what you said it would be, or that maybe is solving the wrong problem for you in your business, or a coach who isn't a good fit, or, all of those factors could possibly be true. And what is also true is your business is going to have a different customer journey timeline than my business is. And I think it serves everyone to start to get curious about what is the customer journey timeline in my business. I know, for example, I have a pretty long customer journey. And that doesn't mean my business is wrong. That doesn't mean my strategy is wrong. That's just the journey most people going through my world take before they become ready to want to work with a one-on-one coach and invest at a higher level, particularly because I tend to work with clients not just once, but for years and years and years, right? This all makes sense. And I think this is important because otherwise, I'm just thinking in my business, if I know people take 6 months to a year, if not longer, through a customer journey, it would be very easy to look at my strategy and after 3 months to say, well, this isn't fucking working. And then to start pointing fingers and saying, well, again, like my coach must just suck. She's not getting me results. She said this worked for someone else. Why am I not getting results? I've been showing up not even 3 times a week, but I show up every day, multiple times a day. I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do. Why isn't this converting? When it might actually be working perfectly. It's just that because of my offer and because of the price point, because of the type of work I do, the people who are in that pipeline might just need a little bit more time in that journey. And why this is so important to understand is that highly converting strategy, probably if you have a longer customer journey, if I then decide something's not working and so I stop that and I go and get another coach or I go and get another program or I go and get another strategy, what I've just done is, let's say that customer journey was a year for someone and they were 3 months in. I basically just burned all of that effort and work and that relationship build, and now I'm going to go start it over somewhere else, and I've just made a year and 3 months, so to say, right? And so I think this is where we can unintentionally set ourselves back not just 2 months but a year, 2 years, 3 years, and where I see really smart business owners, no one's doing this on purpose. It's just because we have conflicting information in the online space and we don't always know what's true or what's going on in our business, or maybe you don't have one-on-one support. And this is where I think people can get stuck for years in business, not again because they're not smart, don't know what they're doing, but because they think something's not working and they think it's the fault of X, Y, and Z. And again, there could be some nuance to that. We're going to talk about how to know if it is that, to look at that. And every time you stop and start with something new, not only do you have to start the strategy all over again, but oftentimes you're also severing that relationship you've been building. And so I think it's just helpful to know everyone's customer journey is going to be longer. A lot of customer journeys are longer. And then if we add in, we are at a time where the economy, whatever you want to label it, is there's at least inflation. We can say that. Some people say we're in a recession. Some people say we're not. We can all agree that there is inflation and that there is money economy talk happening. And our online space is also busier than it's ever been. We are all, for the most part, in niches and industries that are unregulated. There is very low barrier to entry, which means when the economy is also doing funky things, it's sort of like the gold rush, right? Or I don't know if this is the best example, but we'll just stick with what I'm saying here so that I don't take us down a rabbit hole. But that means that if, people are getting laid off more than ever and they want to make extra money and there's low barrier to entry and, very little requirements and regulations, it's going to get busier in the online space. And there's also huge promises that you can make a lot of money really quickly. So it's going to get even louder. It already has gotten louder. And this isn't to freak anyone out. It's just to level set. Then it would make sense that it's probably going to be that much more confusing for people to know who to buy, not to buy from. And then we add in the layer that there's been noise in our industry about integrity and ethics and trusting people, right? So if we add all of this together, it might just mean that customer journeys are going to be a little bit longer for many businesses. And that's not bad or good, it just is. But I think the more you can see, then that doesn't mean this strategy isn't working. That doesn't mean this program sucks. That doesn't mean the coach I hired is horrible and doesn't know what they're talking about. It might just mean there are all of these factors. This is what is, right? And then if we add in one more layer of maybe you're new to business and you've never had an offer before and it's not validated, it's not tested, and you don't have an audience and you don't have social proof, right? If we just add all of this together, all this means is your strategy could be working very well. It might just simply mean the expectation for the timeline might be a little bit off, and there's an opportunity to level set the timeline there before burning something that might actually be working very well to the ground. I just want to see if there's any comments. Okay, now, if you have a question about this, comments, reflections, if you've experienced this, let me know this. I want to keep saying this. This does not mean that if you're starting a brand new business, you need to freak out and you're not going to book a client and it's going to take you 17 years, right? I think I booked my first client within a month of my business. Many of my clients get results very quickly. Many of my clients grow their businesses very quickly. I've had many clients who have reached 6 figures far faster than I did. I think it took me 2.5 years in business to reach my first 6 figures. Many clients who've done it in 3 months and 6 months. But I think it's also to level set to see that even when you hear me share results like that, there's probably some context to that to say that, and part of the reason maybe for those quicker results, for those unicorn results, is probably also to do with where they were at in terms of their level of expertise or what they were bringing to the table. I think I'm a great coach, but I'm coaching all of my clients the same, and not everyone's going to get the same results on the same timeline, and that's okay. And I think we just, again, want to level set and normalize that is because of what goes into a highly converting strategy and getting those results, as opposed to just thinking that people are lying to you or that things aren't working. Okay. I could just be on a soapbox about that forever, so let me move on unless anyone has a question around this, but I have a couple other things I want to make sure that we cover here. Let me just move down my notes, because otherwise I feel like I had a lot of notes today and I will miss some of this. So one of the reasons, this is one of the things I wanted to make sure I hit on, and then I'll talk a little bit more about how to make sure that you can have your strategy work for you and that you can avoid some of the, getting into that victim mindset around this and the finger pointing. But one of the things I want to talk about is, why don't people talk about this more? I think there's 2 reasons. And again, it's not because people are lying. I really think that, I think there is a small percentage in our space, and we've had live streams about this. I don't want to talk about it too much today, but I think there's a really small percentage of people who are not who they say they are, who are employing crappy marketing tactics and maybe lying for various reasons and smoke and mirrors, and are maybe offering programs that don't make sense, or who I think maybe are promising more than they can deliver, or creating something that hasn't been validated. I think that just happens all the time in business. So I think some of that is true. And I think the majority of people in our space are who they say they are and are good at what they do. And I think we have to hold that as true, and then have varying levels of experience, because people have been in business for varying levels of time. And that is the case with our online space, but that is the same thing if I go out in New York City and I go to any business and I buy from them, right? Like, they're just going to have varying levels, or service provider, varying levels of experience. I use my hair as an example all the time. My hairdresser, one of the reasons I go to her, she has a ton of experience, but that doesn't mean that the hairdresser who speaks to the results I can get from my hair, who's newer to doing hair, is lying. It just means she has a different level of experience. Anyway, one of the reasons I don't think people want to tell you that this is what goes into results. I mean, first and foremost, I think it's just not the best marketing, right? I'm not like selling anyone here right now. Like, this is why you should hire me as a coach. I mean, I do think this is why you should hire me as a coach, because I'm really good at helping you not buy into that bullshit and helping you stay with a strategy and actually figure out what needs to be refined so you can master it and get it work and stay in the game until it works. And that is, I think, one of the biggest values of having a one-on-one coach, because it's just so easy instead to spin out for 3 years. So in many ways, this is exactly why you should hire me, but this isn't the sexiest marketing, right? If I just went around marketing to this all day long, and I was selling group programs, and I was like, you should sign up for my group program. And after 2 months, you're still gonna have to keep working on everything I taught you. And you're still gonna have to refine everything you learned. And it's still gonna take you time to get your investment back, right? I mean, that's just not the best marketing in the world. And so that's why most people aren't going to speak to that. The other reason for this is, if everyone marketed to that, no one would ever do anything in their business, right? If we think of an example outside of our space, I always use acting as an example. If someone told me when I moved to LA, it would be super hard and it would take you forever and you'll have to audition a million times and you're just going to get rejected, and it's going to take you a while to hone your craft, and it's going to take you a long time to get an agent, and then maybe you'll get a couple of jobs, even though I think most people know that about the acting industry, right? That would have been a lot for me to even decide to bet on myself enough to buy a one-way plane ticket to move to LA to even start, right? We almost have to believe a little bit in the possibility of things happening quicker. If I go to the gym and I sign up for a gym membership and they're like, okay, you can definitely get in shape, but you're going to be sore every day and you're going to have to show up all the time and you're going to sweat and it's going to be hard. That's all true, right? That's what's required for a highly converting strategy at the gym. That is all true, right? I'm going to the gym after this and it's going to be hard. I'm going to be challenged. I'm going to sweat. I'm sore right now from a class I took this week, and all of that is true. But if that's what they told me, I don't know, maybe because I have the mindset where I'm like, that's cool, I know that's what is required. But for most people, if they heard that, when the hurdle is first, can I just even feel okay getting myself to the gym and trusting that I can get in shape and that I can show up for a class? There's all of those hurdles. If that's what we were marketing to, people will be like, why would I do that? And then you're telling me on top of that, depending on my level of fitness that I start at, I might not have 6-pack abs in 2 days, and I'm gonna have to keep showing up, and because I've never run before, it's gonna take me 6 weeks to even run a mile. I don't know if that's even true. I'm making stuff up here, right? But if we marketed to that, no one would ever do anything. No one would ever try. No one would ever start. And so I think part of this is just not the sexiest marketing, and I think that's just fair. But I think the other thing we have to think about is, I do think there's an element of, as business owners, as when we market, when we sell, it's not that people are trying to trick you or lie to you, but I do think there's an element of, it's so important to speak to what's possible and to hold people to a higher standard, and to help people also see some of the positive when they're going to make a leap, when they're going to do something new, when they're going to do something scary. Because otherwise, I think as service providers, right, we can never then support someone to even start with the transformation, because it would just seem too overwhelming. So I think that is something that can just be helpful to hold in your mind, so that you're not making yourself wrong if you're marketing to things that are possible for people. I really think that is of service. If my coach didn't market to what was possible, I would have had a harder time believing that's possible for me. I think the difference is promising what's possible and promising timelines. I think that's when things get a little sticky. If the gym promised me I would never be sore, I would never have to actually work out, I would never have to actually sweat, I would never have to actually increase resistance, and that I would have six-pack abs in 2 days, right? That would be out of integrity. But I think speaking to, hey, all of these results you want are possible, and holding that as a possibility for me, I don't actually think that is out of integrity or bad. I think that is actually something that helps us all say, hey, okay, I want that. That is worth it enough for me to sign up, for me to start, for me to get outside my comfort zone. And so, yes, not the sexiest marketing, but I think there's actually some positive reasons why people don't speak to this all the time that I think from a mindset perspective are also important. I don't want anyone leaving this live stream where it's like, and now I'm just gonna like tell myself everything's gonna take forever and it's so hard. Like, that's not the point of this live stream. It's just to level set expectations, but also, can we keep holding the possibility that you get to be the unicorn, that things can happen quickly, and that whatever results you want are absolutely yours and possible on the other side. It's just the timeline is going to be a variable for everyone for the reasons we were talking about at the beginning of the live stream. My computer just started worrying, y'all. You have to let me know if you can hear that. Interesting. Maybe it's time. Hasn't happened yet. I wonder if this means it's time for me to get a new laptop. Okay, let's talk about, was there anything else I wanted to say here? So the main thing there I was just saying is there just usually are so many hurdles for someone to have to overcome, to believe in themselves, to bet on themselves, to trust themselves, to show up for their business, to start their business, to invest in support of any kind, or whatever you're offering, right? If that's a fitness journey or a relationship coaching journey, right? These are just hurdles people have to overcome. And this really is, I think, one of the main reasons people aren't talking about this all the time. I just don't think it would be very empowering or very helpful. Not because they're assholes or trying to lie to you, or because they're trying to promise you something or be out of integrity. I also think there are just a lot of instances where there just isn't room for context for everything. If I share a client results post, for example, if I give a disclaimer next to every single thing, that would be so confusing and it would miss the whole point of what we're sharing. Like, I think there is room for both, where we can have a conversation like we are today, and also to speak to, here's what's possible. Use this as inspiration. And then we all, as smart business owners, as potential clients who are investing in different things, we get to also level set with ourselves around, and what am I bringing to the table? What's the level I'm starting at? Can I just level set some expectations around timeline? And just what goes into a highly converting strategy. This is what I did not speak to at the beginning, and then we'll just chat a little bit about how to stay out of the finger pointing and victim mindset, and just some things to think about when you're investing in something. What I do think goes into a highly converting strategy, because this is something I did want to talk about, is everything we were speaking about earlier in terms of, like, yes, showing up consistently, yes, that timeline, yes, a minimum of 90 days for most people. Not that things can't happen faster, but I think what we also have to see is if we're looking at a business strategy, right, there are things like some of the things I was mentioning before. For your strategy to convert really well, we're usually looking at, you have a clear, defined offer that has been validated, meaning it's probably been tested and you know that it works, right? And you believe in it, right? We need the mindset where you're really bought in and sold on what you offer and believe in it, and you can back it and you have the confidence to sell it. And maybe you have some social proof, or you're getting some social proof, right? That's part of what goes into a highly converting strategy. We have mindset. We like barely touched on mindset today. Mindset is a huge part of what goes into a highly converting strategy. You can do all the things right. We've talked about this in so many live streams. This isn't the one today, but if you don't believe in your strategy, if you don't believe in your offer, if you're scared of success, if you're scared of holding clients, if you are freaked out for any number of reasons about what's going to happen if someone actually ends up in your container, right? That is part of what's going to affect a highly converting strategy. And then there's the strategy itself. We're looking at things like your messaging, your positioning, and not ability to write content in terms of like your content has to be amazing or your live streams have to be perfect and polished. But if you've never created content and that's a part of your marketing strategy, right? We're not even talking about how consistent have you shown up 3 times a week or 5 times a week. but just literally your ability to do some of those things. And then we're looking at also consistency and literally the number of touch points in a strategy. If we know that someone needs 50 to 70 micro touch points to convert, right, that means it requires you to show up 50 to 70 times, and then the mastery to some degree of being able to sell. And so I think understanding those are all of what goes into a highly converting strategy. And so if your strategy isn't converting at the level you want, right, and then we're also baking in the timeline of a minimum of 90 days or more, I think that just gets to start to help everyone to see, oh, if my strategy isn't converting it the way I want, maybe one of the best things I can do is zoom out and take a look at what might be my opportunity to refine something. So one of the things we want to talk about is, how do you know if this is working or not? Like, how do you know if something's not working, or if there's something you can adjust within your strategy? And what I always, when I tell my clients, I think this is actually in their welcome packet, I pretty much tell them, don't ever come to me and tell me something's not working. Not that you can't bring challenges to me, but that's pretty much the least useful thing for anyone to do, is to say my strategy isn't working. Usually when someone says that, I know they're up in their mindset stuff, and we've got some mindset work to do, because we're not looking at anything neutrally, or there's an expectation levels that we need to have. But it's also just very unuseful, because if you say something's not working, if I'm your coach, I don't know what that means. What I know is, for the most part, most strategies work if you work them and give them the time required, right? And assuming you're bringing in the level of mastery needed, but pretty much it's fascinating to me, some of the strategies my clients have, because I meet my clients where they're at and we come up with their strategies. I have clients who don't even use the online space, right? Who aren't even online, and they're fully booked and making great money. Like, every strategy works if you work it, if it's in alignment, and if we get that mastery around it. So when someone says it's not working, I always want to look at, is this in alignment or not? If it's not in alignment, great. That doesn't mean it's not working. It means it's not in alignment, so you don't want it to work, and you're probably not showing up for it consistently, or you probably are with a lot of resentment, so we might need to actually change the strategy. If it's in alignment, I want to look at a lot of other things, and then I just then want to assume the strategy works. It just means that there are probably some elements we want to look at. But if you're in the mindset of it's not working, the first thing we want to do is, how can we get your mindset to neutral? Because when a client comes to me and is neutral, usually then when something's not working, they're bringing me data to the table, and we can then take a look at what opportunities do we have to refine something, to deepen some mastery around something, to add in some more touch points, right? And that's really the opportunity there. So if you feel like your strategy is not working, I would invite you to check in with, is it possible that maybe there's an opportunity first to do some mindset work just to get to neutral, and then to check in with, is your strategy in alignment for you? And that doesn't mean, does it feel good and like the most amazing thing to do every day, but like, is it in alignment in terms of how you like to show up and build relationships and connect with people? And then if that is the case, then I would say, if you're at neutral, assume the strategy itself probably works. I would take a look at, are you focused on one thing and working that until it works, or have you been all over the place? First thing I would always check in on. And then I would look at, if you're focused on one thing, have you given enough time where you actually have data to look at? If not, probably some of this is a time game thing. If you have enough data to look at, and you've been giving things maybe 90 days or more, then the opportunity is not to say, this isn't working, fuck this, like, let me go do something else. It's probably to look at, okay, so what is working well? How can we lean into that more? And then where are the opportunities to refine, to deepen the mastery? So if we have, let's say, I use myself as an example. We did the live stream around booking the free calls, right? So if I'm putting out free calls, and I know free calls work as a strategy, they just work. You don't have to like them. They might not be in alignment, all of those things, but they just work. And if they're not working to the degree I want, if I'm neutral, then I can take a look at where in the process, from me putting out content or writing content and copy to market this, to posting this in various places, to people landing on those, so the reach, to people landing on the landing page, to people booking into that call, to people actually getting on the call, to me holding the call, to me having the sales conversation and follow-ups on the back end, right? There's all of these various points within that strategy. I get to then look at what is already working, and then usually what I want to look at is, if this is I'm doing my hands here, but if this is your strategy, where is the first point the strategy is not working, right? That we're having a stop point. That would be like the kink in the funnel. That's probably the opportunity just to do some refinement. And we just want to get that working. And then once that's working, we look at the next point. So for example, when I started my business, I could not book free calls to save my life, right? That was, it was like I couldn't get arrested is the same. When I was acting, at first, I couldn't get auditions. There was a season where I couldn't get auditions, couldn't get arrested to save my life. It would be very easy for me to say, I suck at acting, or this strategy doesn't work for business. It would be very easy for me to say, free calls don't work. But the truth is, they worked, and my strategy was working. I was just stuck at the point of getting visible. I wasn't getting the reach. That was one of the first things I had to address. Then I had to address some of the messaging and the copy, having something that was really clear and specific. And then I had a mindset thing coming up, right? These were things I needed to address. And it wasn't even that I couldn't sell. It wasn't that I couldn't coach. It wasn't that the back end of my sales process, like I couldn't do follow-ups. There were just some pieces on the front end that I needed to refine, to have some mastery around, so that could work more. Hopefully that's making sense here. Kate says, yes, mindset. I was so scared of saying something wrong or saying something I couldn't follow through with, so I just pulled back completely. Kate, thank you so much for saying that, for sharing that. I think it's so helpful to normalize it, and for anyone watching now or on the replay, because I think that's exactly what happens for most of us. And this was what the example I'm just sharing. If I look to my first year in business, and if I look at why I didn't have, in air quotes, quick results, it took me 2.5 years to reach my first six-figure year. And then I grew very quickly after that. I think that's helpful for people to hear too. I always say, I think reaching the first 6 figures is the toughest. And it'd be so easy for me to hold that whole time, like, things weren't working. My strategy doesn't work. My coach sucks. I suck. But the truth is, some of the things you were talking about here, Kate, and one of the things I thought I was showing up. I was so consistent. I showed up every day, but I had a lot of mindset stuff. And so I pulled back, and I wasn't selling consistently, and I wasn't selling really clearly and directly. And so because of that, I was slowing down my results. And that was a lot. I would say that was 80% mindset stuff, and maybe like 20% awareness and like tweaking my strategy a little bit, and like in the action side of things. But that I also needed the time to start showing up, to see I was working something, but I wasn't getting the conversions I wanted. Then to see, okay, where in that strategy was I not having something work? Oh, great. I'm showing up enough, but I'm not selling clearly. I'm holding back. Why am I holding back? Is it because I don't know how? No, I know how. It's because I've got some mindset trash coming on. I need to address it. Then it takes some time to work through that mindset trash, right? This all just takes time, and that's why results take time. If I didn't have that mindset stuff, if I had come in super confident and super feeling great selling, it's so funny. Sometimes we teach the stuff we need to know. I love sales now. I love coaching people around that. But I was scared to sell. I thought it was bad and icky and gross, and I was a mean person if I had all the stuff that probably comes up for everyone here. If I didn't have that when I came in to start my business, I knew I was a great coach. I helped someone ironically make $1 million my first year coaching when I wasn't making my first 6 figures, right? So it wasn't like I didn't have the ability to support someone else. It was all that stuff, but that just took time for me to work through. Had I come in with a different level of mindset, I probably could have reached 6 figures in 3 months or 6 months. And so I say that again, just to level set. And that doesn't make one path right or wrong. That doesn't mean if I had gotten results faster, I would have been a better business owner or a better coach, or my strategy would have been better. It's simply just where I was at and the work I needed to do to have my strategy convert at a high level. And that's what I just want to keep reflecting to everyone here, where I always want to say this: business is not a fucking race. We're all at a different point in the entrepreneurial journey. We're all at a different place with various points. And I think the more we can see that, the more then we can see, oh, this is what goes into a highly converting strategy. I'm not wrong. My coach isn't wrong. This is just the next thing I need to work on so this strategy can convert. Instead of what I could have done is jumped around for 4 years from program to program to program because I was just deciding free calls didn't work, or strategy didn't work, or my business didn't work, right? And I think that's the place I want to invite everyone to be mindful of. Obviously, if a program is not what you've signed up for, obviously, if a coach is not a fit, obviously, if something gives you the yucks, that's a different conversation. But I think this is just where we unintentionally take what is working and the opportunities for growth to make it convert even more highly, and we miss out on that opportunity to do the work required for a highly converting strategy, and instead just set ourselves back even further. Julie says, hi, Kim. That's so cool that you helped someone reach seven figures when you weren't at six yet. Thank you. I think it's cool. I mean, let's be real. I have a one-on-one only model. I do great, but there are many clients I work with and always have who make far more money than me. But it was very fun. And it's very fun to be able to give that as evidence that, I mean, I think what is actually very cool is that was someone who also trusted me, because I've always been transparent around what I make, and who trusted me to support them at that level. I actually think it's cool on my side, and I think that's nice for people to see that you don't have to make the money your clients make. There are various reasons my clients make more money than me, and that can be okay, and you can support someone to that level. But I think that says, I honestly think that says I'm still very good friends with that client. I honestly think that says a lot about that client as well, which also probably says a lot about why they were able to scale to $1 million. I think there's a lot of trust in yourself and your business and in the journey and in trusting the kind of support you need around that. But thanks for saying that. And, that was, I always think it's helpful to say, like, that was all that client. And what was cool is that was mostly mindset work we did and a little bit of strategy. And, yeah, I think just a lot of credit to that client for also trusting me. Credit to all my clients for trusting me. I think I was having a conversation with one of my clients today, and this is the live stream where I basically am like doing the worst marketing sales job for coaching, but this is just the honest truth. And what we were talking about is she's worked with me for a while, and we were talking about some of her marketing and different things around coaching. And I was just saying, I said, look, I think coaching is fucking confronting. I think working with someone one-on-one yes, it's like one thing on the coach side. And yes, of course, like there's a lot for me to like train and like make sure I'm resourced and taking care of myself and showing up fully. But I think I get coached as well. I think it's much harder for me to be coached than it is for me to coach someone else. And the fact that I've worked with the same coach now going on 5 years, right? That's a lot harder for me to have worked with the same coach for 5 years than, even though I love her and adore her. But it's confronting, and versus me coaching the same client for 5 years. So I think just with even the client who scaled to $1 million, I think there's so much credit to someone who's willing to trust someone and also willing to have some of the confronting conversations and then trust someone at that level. I think that just, for any of you who are being coached, I always give so much credit to that, because I think it's the best, most life-changing work, and also can be some of the hardest work you do as a client. Okay, I'm going off on side tangents here. Let me bring us back to focus. Julie says, yes, that's a great point. The trust that a client had in you is also a game changer. The lack of resistance around hiring someone not at their level. Love it. Exactly. I mean, okay, I'm going to go off on one tangent here just because of what you're saying this. My clients are all amazing. I love them all. And just because I've been doing this for 7 years, so I'm not even talking about current clients. I'm just like looking back over the years when I look at clients who are willing to like lean in and trust the process and trust me, and not to say like I have all the answers. Like my job as a coach is to always just keep giving clients back their power. And I have a whole podcast on one question. Clearly, I don't believe that I have the answers and my clients have all the answers, but I think there is something when someone really trusts the process and trusts the person that they're investing in and themselves to just show up and sort of surrender to the process, that really allows for the biggest transformations and shifts. And that's no joke. Like that takes a certain level of trust. And so I think that's just something to, if you're in that process as well, just to give yourself a pat on the back. I think that's something a lot of people aren't willing to do, which is why I think a lot of people don't want, honestly, to invest in one-on-one coaching, which is also okay. But if you are, I say do this to yourself. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now. Let me go back to, because there were a couple other points that I wanted to speak to. Where were we here? I was speaking, okay, because I went totally off on a tangent. So I was saying these are some of the things, like how to know if it's not working or if there's an opportunity to lean in. So I think just remember that if you're saying it's not working, or if you're bringing to your coach, it's not working, I get where that comes from. I probably have done that to my coach at one point. I bet she would tell y'all, I'm sure 5 years ago I did that. So don't make yourself wrong, but that's pretty much the least helpful thing you can bring to the table. Or if you're self-coaching, that's pretty much the least helpful thing you can do. I would offer, if you have a strategy that's in alignment, every strategy works. And then just again, going back to, am I focused on one thing and working that until it works, or am I kind of scattered? If so, that's the first place I would look at. Then if I'm saying it's not working, how can I first work my mindset to get to neutral, to believe that this gets to work for me and strategies work? And then let me just start to look at those pieces and see, where is that first spot that I have an opportunity to lean in? And can I just commit to doing that until this works for me? Like, I wrote a post about this, and I think we're sharing it in the next week or two, but I'll share this now. It took me 2.5 years, I think it was 2.5 years, to make my first 6 figures in business. And then I jumped to 225 and then 360, and that's about where we've been on the revenue share, kind of ebbs and flows things per year, right? And what I think is helpful to know is, it's not like I'm like, man, I'm so mad that it took me 2.5 years of what we're talking about here, of figuring out my mindset and my strategy. Like, I'm so mad that it took me that time to make my first 6 figures and for my business to grow. I'm not mad that, oh my gosh, I'm so mad I didn't blow up in 3 months or 6 months. It literally doesn't fucking matter. It isn't relevant. All that means is, like, okay, I had to work through a couple more things. If anything, I'm grateful to my past self for being willing to be in it. And if anything, I think it makes me a better fucking coach, because I have just had to do the work in a way where there's no client who can get shit past me. But I think, just for yourself, if you're like, oh, this sounds like so much work, we go to the gym example. If you're like, oh, I want 6-pack abs, and someone's like, okay, well, you've never worked out before. This is what that's going to look like. And we're seeing, like, where are the places, the opportunities for you to lean in. This workout's absolutely going to work if you work it. And, here are your opportunities. And it takes you 3 months longer than someone else, or it takes you a year to get the 6-pack abs instead of 2 weeks. It's not like once you have the 6-pack abs, I don't care if anybody has 6-pack abs, by the way, I'm just using that as an example. But it's not like you're suddenly then going to be mad at yourself that you now have what you want. It took you a little bit longer. You're going to go through the timeline anyway. The journey is going to pass anyway. I think we all do ourselves such a bigger service, and honestly shorten the timeline when we embrace where we're at, when we make it so right. And just remembering, like, you're just going to be so happy when you have the results you want. And that's only going to speed up the process, because then you can lean into whatever the next step is to refine for you. Okay. I am turning this into the world's longest live stream, but I did have one other thing I wanted to share with y'all. So thank you for hanging with me. If you're hopping off now, that's okay too. You can catch this on the replay. But the one thing I wanted to dig into, where are my notes here, is just a couple of thoughts, and I'll try to be brief on this so that I'm not too long. But a couple of thoughts for everyone on how to stay out of the finger pointing and victim mindset, and really being clear that this is very different than feeling like you can advocate for yourself. If you are investing in something where it's not what you said you were going to get, if you invest in a program and it is smoke and mirrors, if you invest in a program and they're not giving you the deliverables, or they've promised support that they're not giving, right? If that's the case, that is not being in a victim mindset or finger pointing. If you advocate for yourself and want a refund, or want to get out of the program, or want to speak to that, or want to do better and be a voice for, like, that is not okay in our industry. Like, that's just not okay. I think we just all get to be a voice for raising the standard in our industry. And I also just think in this space, for everyone in this group, I just don't think that's a concern and something we have to worry about. But please trust yourself to advocate for yourself. And I think then also, for what we were talking about earlier, where it's like, maybe this was a great program, but you were brand new to business, or like me, you had some mindset stuff to work through, or whatever the case. And so you didn't get immediate results, but the program delivered what it said it was going to, or the coaches showing up the way they said they were going to. I think one of the best gifts we can all play with is, how can we stay out of that mindset that is what that post, again, not throwing shade, just using it as an example with someone who's anonymous, but stay out of what that post which was doing, which was essentially blaming, and I think probably going to set themselves back 2 or 3 years because of the praise they were getting for blaming and the Me Too's they were getting from that, but also for the 50 different pieces of advice that they're now going to have to try to sift through. I think here are just a couple things I would offer. You don't have to agree with me, but these are just things I have found really serve me, that I find serve my clients, that you can play with. So, and again, this is different than the correction I see happening in our industry. I think that is so important. We're really talking about things where this is more we're talking about in terms of results take time, and it depends on where you're at in terms of what that timeline's going to look at, and can you have a little grace for yourself and maybe the programs you're in, so that we're not having the pendulum swing there and unintentionally having you set yourself back because of it. So one of the things I think can be really helpful to look at is when you're looking at a program, whether that is a group program, a mastermind, a coach, a course, a gym membership, a gym class, a smoothie thing, a relationship program, whatever the thing is, I think check in with, am I buying this to self-soothe? Am I buying this to avoid an emotion? Am I buying this because it's promising me a quick fix? Right? Am I trying to either avoid an emotion or get an emotion from this? Am I buying or investing out of a desperate energy or out of a sense of urgency, where I think about this in the business space, where it's like, if someone comes to me and they're like, I need this to work, and I need to make money next month so that I can pay you or so that I can pay my rent, right? If any of these things are coming up, that might be a place to check in with and just hit the pause button and to check in with, is this actually the right solution for what you're really wanting to achieve? Because I think this is when shitty marketing, honestly, unethical marketing can really draw you in. If you're feeling super desperate and you're feeling super scarce and super in urgency, and someone is promising you the moon in their program and overnight results, even if there's a little bell on the back of your head saying like, I don't know if that's true or not, right? It's just going to be easier to lean into that because of where your mindset is at. If you're feeling super shitty about yourself and there's a program that promises it's going to erase all your mindset blocks forever and I don't know, whatever things, and then you can manifest $1 million and your soulmate, and you're just feeling like, I'm lonely and I feel horrible and this just feels like this gets to self-soothe me, right? I think just checking in with where you're buying or investing from can be really helpful. And of course, if you're feeling any of these things, there are probably challenges you want to address, and finding a program or solution for that is great. But the more you can look at, am I coming at this more from a neutral place, and I am clear on the right problem, the right gap, the thing I want to address, and looking at, will this program help me address it? I think the more you're going to have a better chance finding program support, coaches, whatever the things are that are going to meet your expectations. I think our expectations get a little blown out of the window sometimes when we're investing from that space. I know I think about this where it's sort of like, it doesn't matter how amazing of a coach I am, how much experience I have, if someone's coming in super like desperate and grippy and needy, and like, God bless their heart, like I get that's a hard place to be in, but that is going to be a really tough place for us to get quick results, right? The first thing we're probably going to have to do is spend some time working through that. So I think just knowing that can be very helpful, just to level set expectations and timelines in terms of what actually goes into a highly converting strategy and results. I think, again, just check in with your expectations, what we were talking about at the beginning, of where you're at in the journey. I really want to be an advocate for and a voice for, please allow yourself to believe that you get to be a unicorn and you get to be an exception to the rule. This is literally an affirmation of mine, that I am an exception to the rule. I just don't make myself wrong if it turns out I'm not an exception to the rule. You know what I mean? So I think just allowing for both, where it's like, how can you both allow that to be possible for you, but also checking in with, and this is just a question I will play with, and this is honestly, I've shared this before. I think I work with one of the top coaches in the industry. I love her. I've worked with her for almost 5 years. We've grown together. We've scaled together. She's brilliant at what she does. She's not a better coach now that I make a bunch of money than she was when I couldn't book free calls, right? She's just been a great coach the whole time. But one of the things, and I would say in our first 6 months, I maybe booked a client, right? And that's not because she wasn't a good coach. It's just with where I was at in my journey, and then things snowballed for me. And I'm so grateful to Past Me for being willing to see that was just this part I needed to continue to invest. But one of the things I check in with is, if I know that the results, right, a highly converting strategy, whatever you're looking at investing, we're talking business here, but again, this might be the gym, it might be your relationships, could be hip hop, right? I took hip hop classes, right? It could be learning how to master hip hop, whatever that is. Can I both hold that I'm available for quick results and to be that unicorn? I'm going to take hip hop classes and like, I'm going to master hip hop in 3 weeks or in 6 weeks. And if I know this might take me a year or longer to learn, to master, to get results, if I know this might take me 2.5 years to learn, to master, to get results. Am I cool with that? Is it worth it? Is this still the investment I want to make? Is this still the program I want to make? Is this still the right gap for me to close? If I know it's going to take me 2 years to learn hip hop and to be really good at it, is it worth me showing up? Is it worth me continuing to invest, right? And then I think that can also be helpful because then you know if you really want the thing or not. But I think that can just be a helpful place to check in with. Again, this does not mean we are not holding programs and coaches also to their own responsibility. I say this to clients all the time. I think this is literally my welcome packet. I have 100% responsibility to show up 100% for my clients and their investment. And my clients have 100% responsibility to show up for themselves and their business and their investment. So we're holding both accountable. But I think then with that, we get to keep checking in with some of these things. So that's a question I always like to ask myself. Would I still make this investment? Would I be cool with, like, does it still feel like the right solution and the right support, even if I know it's going to take me a while? Y'all know I'm very open about this. I do EMDR therapy. I've been in therapy for a year or two now, maybe 2 years, for more processing some childhood trauma and high school trauma with a capital T. And when I made that investment, my insurance doesn't cover that. I'm a business owner, and it's New York City. It's a hefty investment. I had to check in with, am I okay with knowing that this is probably going to be a long-term investment? Am I okay that the results might take some time? I had to check in with that, and that doesn't mean that it's not working. It started working right away, but I needed to check in with that before. If I came into that where I'm like, I need this to be like EMDR'd out in a session or two, that would have been a really unfair place to put both myself and my therapist in. Let's see. Sarah says, no, I'm upset that I'm not going to have 6-pack abs in 2 weeks. I could leave, but I got to stick around, put the time in. I mean, just say, LOL. It's so true. The comment it was on a riff and I didn't see your comment, but it's funny when we say it out loud. I think fitness is one of the best examples for that. It's funny when we say it out loud and no one means. I don't think that anonymous post I saw, I don't think they were trying to be what we could probably see as, doesn't make sense. And clearly 100 people who commented, there was one person who commented who was basically saying a line of what I'm saying. I was like, maybe just keep doing what you're doing and give it a little more time. But that means 99 other people were also in the like, this should be different kind of a thing. But it's also funny when we just look at it through the 6-pack abs lens. But this is just our brains are wild. This is why one-on-one coaching is so beneficial, because it's so easy for us to spin into these stories. So the other things I think that can be really helpful to check in with when you're making an investment, and again, not to decide like, I don't want to make the investment or this isn't the right thing for me, but just to level set expectations so that you're not pointing fingers either at someone else or at yourself. Because what happens is if we don't get the results we want, matching our expectations, right? It's easy to say that program sucked, that coach sucked, but I think the pendulum can swing. And I bet in this group, it's more what people say is, I suck, I did something wrong. If I was good enough, I would have gotten 6-pack abs in 2 weeks, as opposed to check in with your expectations of where you're at in the journey. Have you never worked out before in your entire life? That's okay. It just might be a different expectation and journey. Have you been working out nonstop for the last 3 years and this is just a different workout you're trying? We'll use the hip hop example. Have you never danced ever before in your life and you're in your 40s? Great. Or have you danced a lot? Do you have great rhythm? Are you in good shape? I was captain of my cheerleading squad, right? When I go to hip hop class, I'm not like the world's best, but I can pick stuff up pretty quickly. But that's because I'm coming in with a different level of experience at the start of that journey. So I could get quick results. Whereas if I took fencing tomorrow, I would probably get really slow results because I have some coordination, but like I've never fenced before. So I think just checking in with that can be really, really helpful. Then this is so obvious, but it just feels worth speaking to. Just a couple of things here. Do your due diligence. Check in with the program stats. Don't buy shiny promises. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? I know this sounds like so common sense, but if someone is promising you the moon in 2.5 seconds, I might just have question marks. If things don't look like they match up to what someone is saying, unfortunately, I do think most people are who they say they are. I think most programs are what they say they are. And unfortunately, there are people lying, and there are people who don't, there are no regulations, right? Anyone could come into our space today, feel desperate for money, make a bunch of false promises, right? That is just true. So just do some of your own due diligence, but remember that then the converse is true. That also means people are probably doing the same with your program. So don't make someone else wrong in your buyer's journey, in your sales process, if they're doing their due diligence. But also you get to do the same thing in your buyer journey and experience to do your due diligence and just check some things out. And if something smells funny, if something seems too good to be true, if someone is making you promises, I would run away, basically. I always tell it when someone asks me, what I can promise them or what other clients get as results when we're having a discovery call. I'm very quick to say, like, look, I can't make any promise. Like, here's what I can speak to in terms of what I will show up for as your coach and how I can show up to support you. But it is so out of integrity or out of ethics for and people just you just can't make promises. Like that is just I would run in the other direction. And then I think this is what's really important. If we're looking at what goes into a highly converting strategy, we broke this down earlier. There are so many little pieces and nuances. So I really invite you to get clear on, are you investing in something that's helping you close the right gap? If you have a problem with messaging, but you're investing in a program that's helping you master TikTok, it's not that the TikTok program sucks. It's that if it's not helping your strategy convert, you might just be closing the wrong gap and the wrong problem. If what's going on for you is mindset and you're not trusting yourself, or you think you suck, or you have a fear of success or a fear of failure, and you're investing in a program that is, telling you how to write captions on social media, maybe that could be tied into mindset, or something that is helping you with your branding. It's not that branding isn't important, or something that's helping you do your website, right? It's not that isn't important. It's just we're closing the wrong gap. And I think this is also where we have to look at what goes into a highly converting strategy, not only the timeline, but all of those pieces. Where are your opportunities? And are you investing in something that's helping you close that next gap to master, that next gap to close? Or are you investing from a place of emotion, right? I want to avoid emotion. I want to avoid the discomfort of having to sell, so I'm investing in branding. I want to avoid rejection, so I'm investing in how to do TikTok, when there are other things that actually would be helping me close the right gap. I would just really check in with that. Or are you investing in support that's going to help you figure that out? Again, that doesn't necessarily mean things will happen overnight, but that's how you're going to actually get a highly converting strategy, as opposed to just learning another tactic or trick. And I will not go off on a soapbox around that. Seeing, did I have anything else here I wanted to say on that? And just checking. It says right, exactly. So those are the main things there. And then I would just say, to summarize all of this, and this is more on the conversation around the investing part, not the highly converting strategy part, but I would just check in with, if you're going to make an investment, if we're looking at strategy, if we're looking at it's not working, if you're saying it's not working, is it coming from a neutral place where you're taking personal responsibility and just like, hey, let's figure this out because I'm in a neutral place and let's figure out what's not working? Or are you in a place, and I'm so mindful of saying personal responsibility just because we're in a very funky space in our online space right now. But I think just the more you can see where can you take back your personal responsibility with both seeing what is and isn't working and with the investments you're making, and show up from that place to both back yourself and advocate for yourself if something is not what it says it is or should be, but also from this place where if you're showing up from your investments from that place and looking at your strategy from a place of, I show up for this 100%. I'm showing up with personal responsibility. That's what's going to ultimately have your strategies convert at a high level. And again, the timeline is just going to be different for everyone. So the more you can, yes, take personal responsibility, but remember, personal responsibility does not mean be mean to yourself and beat up on yourself because things didn't happen quickly. No one, if we look, the fitness example is so perfect. If you've never worked out a day in your life and you don't get six-pack abs in 2 weeks, or you can't run a 6-minute mile in 2 weeks, right? You can still take personal responsibility to choose the program or gym or training program that makes sense for you and to show up for it and to problem solve. But personal responsibility doesn't mean like, well, either the program sucks or I now suck because I didn't get that result in a timeline that just literally doesn't make sense. So I think just really being mindful there. Yes, personal responsibility is always going to be your friend, and that is what's always going to help you level set and get those results you want with any strategy, and using that to come to neutral to see how can I both hold an expectation that makes sense and look at what's going on in the strategy and also take the responsibility to solve and close for the right gap, but not to use that to now, instead of pointing the fingers out, to point the fingers in it yourself. Just the more we can stop finger pointing altogether, not out or not in, that's where you're going to win. Okay, I think those were all of the things that I wanted to share. I know we went a little long today, so thank you all for hanging with me live. I love getting to dive into these. I actually realized I have a very fun announcement. I think we're going to announce it next week, so I'm going to tease that out. This just made me think of it because of something in it. So I have a fun announcement I'm going to share with you next week. We can't share it until then. I'm like making it sound bigger than it is. It's a little new thing, but I'll prop that in there. And if you're listening to this and this feels like, wow, Kim made one-on-one coaching sound really confronting and really challenging, and like I'm gonna have to actually dig in and show up for myself and show up for my business, and I'm game for that, then you are my people, then you are my person, then you're the kind of person I like to work with, not because I want to put all the responsibility on you or because I want to say good luck. I work so closely with my clients. I talk to many of them every day. I show up 100% for my clients and their investment, but I like to work with clients who also show up 100% to meet me. That's where we get highly converting strategies. That's where businesses blow up, whether it's in 3 months or 3 years, because I work with my clients for 3 years, for 4 years, and I love all my clients, and I care for you because I want everyone to get quick results, but I'm not here to promise quick results or to make quick or long results better or worse. I think the timeline just is what it is for each person and perfectly right for each person. And if hearing that feels really good and that feels like the kind of support you want, and you want someone who's going to be in it with you to help you close the right gaps, to help you work the mindset, to help you stay in your strategy until it is highly converting, until you're making 6, 7 figures, who doesn't care if you make way more fucking money than me, I would love to chat with you. I will drop a discovery call link. I have some intensives opening up. I don't know when we have a one-on-one spot opening up, but we definitely are opening up some intensives. And if you're the right person, I will open up an ongoing spot for you. But definitely have some intensives that we are opening up next month. And it would be my honor and joy to connect with you and support you. Thank you all for hanging with me. I will see you next week. And I will share my fun announcement with you then as well. Bye, y'all.